I'm just going to say it, boys. You ready?
Yeah.
We're all Knick heads here, baby.
It is my pleasure to officially welcome every single one of you to the Nick Richards era in the Valley of the Sun as your Phoenix Suns took down the Detroit Pistons in a back-and-forth wonderful Saturday afternoon bout, and they came out victorious. KD went off, Book dropped 30-plus yet again, and my oh my, the Suns have a center. Welcome into PHNX Suns. I'm Eric, that's Steven, Espo, Gerald. Espo's getting ready with the sexy sacks, and we took down those Pistons, and I need everybody in the chat to boogie. Let's do it. Hey, double sexy sack.
Not the double sacks.
Michael, Ted, Manuel, Juan, Sandman, Strikeout, Judas, Amelia, Icy Happy,
baby.
Todd Packer, Kara, That Dude, Perfect Remedy, J5, everybody in the chat. Smash that like button. Demolish that like button because it's a positivity-filled episode from me of the PHNX Suns show. Once again, welcome in. And of course, we are presented by our friends over at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHNX365 when you sign up and find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gerald, it's hard to find the best place to start with this one because there was a lot of good this afternoon.
There was. I'll start with the obvious. That was the most enjoyable Suns game that we have had in probably 2 months. I mean, we got a great Devin Booker performance. We got a dominant Kevin Durant takeover in the second half. We got Nick Richards coming in with a double-double in his first game and raising the floor of what this team looks like with just adequate center play. And he had a great game. This was his first game not being familiar with his teammates. And this is a Pistons team that, you know, around 500, they're a much better team. They're not a great team by any means, but this is something you can build on. For the first time in a while, this is a Suns win that you look at it and say, okay, I feel good about that win instead of nitpicking all the bad areas. And that alone can do wonders for a team's confidence. Again, Nick Richards is not going to save the Suns season by himself. There's still a lot that they need to build on. But what a fun game. I can't remember the last time I enjoyed watching Suns basketball to this degree.
This is a very impressive win. It felt like a comprehensive win for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And though they only had 27 in the fourth quarter, they had 30 in each of the first 3 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
And you start and sinking it the first quarter, setting the tone. They won the first quarter, and they scored 30-plus points. Devin Booker, to Espo's point that he's been making all season, is the starter for the team. And he also was able to bridge some of that gap with his efforts in the second quarter as well. Hefty hand on why they put up 30 points in that period as well. Get to the third quarter, and not unlike most games this season, they're met with plenty of resistance coming out of halftime. Some of it might have been because of just the lack of connection to start, but generally speaking, Detroit came out and they dictated games, and they dictated the game and put it on their terms. And the Suns, where they would have crumbled in weeks past, even games past, met back with that resistance their own. And Kevin Durant woke up, and he became not just the reliever, but he set up for the closing position, which he also put himself in and delivered in time on task for the team. And within all of that, one of the biggest differences was their main acquisition so far this season in Nick Richards, and we saw them piece it all together.
Oh, he nicktated the game there. Like,
There it is.
I mean, he certainly, but when you look at it, you could see a noticeable difference when he was the guy out there and when Plumlee or Oso was the guy out there. And the times that lead either shrunk or Detroit pulled away a little bit and never got really far out of hand. But were those minutes where Plumlee was the guy or Oso was the guy. And that's not to say that'll be every night, but against a very physical Detroit team, it was obvious that you needed what Nick Richards was bringing tonight. He had that big Nick energy and took care of what you needed down low. I mean, we were watching on the watch along and Steven, you probably noticed this in the final, couple of minutes, probably final 4 minutes, you ran the same play 3 times in a row. It was Book brought it up, kicked it to Katie at the top. You saw Nick Richards slide down into that dunker spot after starting in the corner. 2 were Katie jumpers. 1 led to a great bounce pass from Katie for a dunk from Nick Richards. Like that right there, I think spoke volumes to his impact on that game, because you had to take him seriously there, where if it's Mason Plumlee, you probably take him a little less serious, right?
Or
and
a lot
it was
less.
it was that, the rebounding, the energy you saw when KD got really fired up. Who was the guy that he started slapping hands with when he was on the floor? It was Nick Richards. Like, I think his energy is going to help in spades with this team. I think that's going to be a big part of what he brings.
And speaking of energy, so much energy in the chat right now. Over 500 of you already filing in here. That means we're going to set a massive like goal for today. Let's get to 200. 200 likes for Nick Richards, 200 likes for KD, 200 likes for Book, 200 likes for you. It helps us out so much. We see a bunch of super chats piling in. We're going to get to those at the start of the second segment. Any price, your super chat will get read on air, but let's stop burying the lead. Let's go to PHNX Factor. We all know who it is, so we might as well just rip the Band-Aid off. Maybe.
Let's just
slowly pull it off
In a second.
Nick, gonna give it to you.
Boom. There it is. Nick Richards is the PHNX Factor today. And if it wasn't for KD and Book going off, he could have been the star. 21 points, plus 22 on a plus minus in a 4-point game, 11 rebounds, 4 of those being offensive, 7 of 8 from the field, 7 of 9 from the free throw line. Steven, what was the most impressive thing you saw from the first ever Phoenix Suns debut where the player came off the bench and dropped 20 and 10?
It was the motor, but the motor in tandem with his presence. I think Espo just hit on a lot of it. This is not a game the Suns would have won last week. And it's not because they wouldn't have had a counter to the resistance that they were met with from Jalen Durant and Isaiah Stewart in that third quarter. Nick Richards comes in, and where Mason Plumlee was getting pushed around, not being able to execute, he's able to not just execute, but dictate back to those two in particular, being Durant and Stewart, to the point where his presence on the game, he spent a lot of minutes where it was usually one of them, Stewart or Durant, was on the court, and he finished the game, what was this, plus
22.
Plus 22.
Plus 22.
Jeez.
That says everything. He wasn't out there going against scrubs in any capacity, and his impact was felt. He was a big piece in why they sparked the comeback that they did after the resistance they were met with, and he was the X factor, quite literally.
And that's the great part for me looking at this performance, is it didn't feel like he was doing anything too out of the ordinary.
Yep.
You know, he wasn't like facing up, driving by dudes and dunking on them. He wasn't, coming in for these outrageous offensive putback slam dunks. Like, it was kind of a tame game in terms of actual highlights for him, but he just did the things that the Suns have needed from their center spot. He crashed the offensive glass. He was there in the dunker spot to finish efficiently. He did have that one kind of crazy underhanded lay-in on the and one that was maybe a little bit outside of what you would normally expect. But in terms of what he did, he just went out there and did his job. And that's why he was able to fit in so quickly without knowing a lot of the sets that they run or, the things that they run on either end of the court. But by being athletic, by being a big body, by being someone who can finish around the rim and contest shots on the other end, he was able to have an immediate impact. And that's why we were saying, so what? He was the backup center on the Charlotte Hornets. You put him in a better context, that's the type of player whose limited skill set can really help with what you're trying to do.
Can we talk about the pick and roll, or the nick and roll, as I'm going to call it?
You can do whatever you want
from now
man.
on.
Sure.
It's actually present now with the Phoenix Suns. Tyus had, I think, probably 3 assists off of running that with Nick Richards. The crazy end one that you talked about came off of a pick and roll. There was one with KD that was a nice pass. Like, this is the simple things that we talked about that he could have a big impact on. It's just being a roller that you can trust and that the defense has to stay honest with, right? And he succeeded in that. To your point, there wasn't a lot that he played outside of his game tonight. He just did the things that we all said that he was going to be good at, including trying to protect at the rim. Now, some of the rotations weren't great, for the team as a whole, and it led to him being a little over aggressive and them getting dunks. That stuff they'll work on in terms of defensive communication. But what he was able to do in terms of pick and roll and then his aggressiveness at the rim defensively, I don't think those are things that change. Will he have 20 and 10 every night? No, he won't have 20 and 10 every night, but he'll still do those little things that'll have a big impact on the game.
And you don't need him to do 20 and 10 every night. You needed it tonight, and Detroit's a good team. A couple people mentioning, why was this a close game? A lot of people, they pay attention to their favorite team, especially not ones in the other conference. Detroit's a big, physical, athletic team that has given the Phoenix Suns fits before this season, and Nick Richards was a great counter to that. Funny enough for me, two of the most impressive things about his game don't actually come from what I saw on the court that were positives. One comes from the negatives, which was the fact that their chemistry is clearly not there. Whether it was the fast break that KD whiffed the pass to him, right? Whether it was Nick Richards getting a block on what eventually was a Ryan Dunn foul when Ryan Dunn wasn't really used to having somebody back there who could block it, whether it was the first pick that was a little awkward that he set for KD. Like, this is still a team learning each other's tendencies. I don't even know if they've had a practice together, right? So you walk into that's impressive, that there's room for improvement, not just in how you scored, how you got your rebounds, but what other opportunities you missed. And number two is, take a look at our chat. Go on social media. Look about just the conversation revolving around the Phoenix Suns. I think it's pretty safe to say that we were about as close to rock bottom as you can get. And if you weren't there, you were sniffing it.
Yeah.
And you're now at this point where you see a path. You see a path towards problems being fixed. They still need to fix a lot of things that are outside of Nick Richards, but he brings hope to a team and to a fan base that has been desperately searching for it all season.
He plugs some of the issues you had, right? Rebounding, you feel a little bit better about. Defensively, you're going to feel a little bit better about, and the athleticism. I still think that they need to go out and get another big, potentially a pick and pop that gives you another look that's different. Because we've seen, I don't think that that you can trust the rest of this rotation. Oso and Plumlee. Oso you can in short minutes or specific, kind of matchups, but I still think you need a big that can rebound and pick and pop that you don't have. And there's still other areas where they're going to have to clean up. Yeah, they beat Detroit. People are like, well, why'd you only beat Detroit by 4 when you had a big performance by Nick Richards? Because A, the Pistons are better, but B, the Suns still have things to figure out.
Yep.
This was, like we've talked about, this is not a one-size-fits-all, everything's fine. You're going to see, you're going to get a big test on Monday and see how that goes. But I think there's still a lot to clean up, Steven. Am I wrong in that assessment while watching it?
No, not at all. I think execution is one of the biggest things. You have a piece that has gravity on the roll. You have a piece that can finish around the basket. Are your passes sharp to him? Are you getting it to him when he's open versus when that window is closing? And now not only is his catch tougher, but his finish at the basket is tougher because you're not on schedule. And the shots around him, he has gravity. I'm thinking about a play. It might have been the third quarter where he sets a screen after you got an offensive rebound for maybe KD. He rolls. KD has 2 to the ball that pulls in the low man. KD skips it or Devin Booker skips it. One of those two. Detroit has to rotate around that. They're in rotation, but Royce O'Neal turns the ball over. So you can create as many advantages as you want to, and you have a piece that's certainly going to help you do that in the context that you already spend the most time in. But are you executing within that? Are you taking the shots when they're open? Are you making the right pass? Like, little things like that is why this game was closer than I personally think it should have been. Not a discredit to Detroit because they're a very good team. You can look at their record and say they're 500 or a game behind that, but they've been operating as a top 10 team the last week and a half, last 2 weeks or so. But they just have to get back to their execution more than anything within all of it for me.
Yeah.
We got more on Nick Richards. We have all of your super chats. Big, bright, shining star. We're going to talk Devin Booker. We're going to talk Kevin Durant. Tyus Jones had a good game. So much more going on with your Phoenix Suns, and you guys are cruising on your way to crushing that like goal. Only about 70 likes left to hit 200, almost 700 of you in here right now. Let's keep that going up. It helps us out so much. We have super chats and so much more after our first break. That clearly did not stink, but if you do, let me introduce you to our friends over at Mando. It's okay. Everybody at a point in their life, you probably look back and said, I could have taken care of myself better.
Is this Play-Doh for men?
No, it's not
Okay.
Play-Doh for men. It's full body deodorant wipes. It's basically an entire arsenal to make sure that you smell good.
What a manly word,
Yes,
Arsenal.
smell is one of the most important things out there, especially if you're dating, especially if you're trying, to find the love of your life. You can make a great first impression by the way that you smell, and you can figure out what Mando product is your favorite with their starter pack. It's perfect for new customers. Comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, all of that with free shipping as well. And as a special offer for you, new customers can get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code that equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code PHNX at shopamando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show. Tell them that we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, boost your confidence head to toe with Mando.
Gas can make you stink, but not with our friends over at Circle K, because you're going to save money when you become part of the inner circle. You sign up by downloading the Circle K app, putting your phone number and your name, boom, you're going to save 25 cents on your next 5 fill-ups. I'm looking at you, Nick Richards. You're new in town. We got to help you out with saving a little money. I know you're only making $5 million, so we got to save some change here. For you.
Only.
Am I right? Yeah. So you sign up for the inner circle.
crazy.
After those 25 cents off your first 5 gallons, you save 3 cents. Then you hit the ESPO level. Nick, believe me, you want to hit the ESPO level here in Phoenix. You save 5 cents off your next gallons in perpetuity. It's that easy. Plus, you're going to save on great snacks and other things, including the Polar Pops and Frosters that you can get for just 79 cents. Join the Inner Circle today by downloading the Circle K app for free. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details.
Gallons in perpetuity.
Yes, gallons.
Great band name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I try something? I got something I want to try.
Yes.
Nick was really on. We like that.
There's
for Nick
something there.
Richards?
There's something there.
We'll keep workshopping.
We'll workshop.
He doesn't appreciate it because he's not a
Espo,
classic
I appreciate
Nickelodeon
it.
guy. I think you got where I was
stop.
going. So.
Oh, stop.
Remember the
Don't
face?
slander my
Yeah.
name.
Just the face.
New and old friends in the chat, we appreciate every single one of you. Those of you joining us on YouTube later, and of course, all of our audio listeners as well. If you're there on audio, make sure you rate us 5 stars. If you can't, leave a like. And for those of you in here right now, I need to see those likes go right up as we hit your super chats. Hello's booing you, and Bad B Slayer says, "I F with it, Espo."
You know what? I think hello booing is actually a win for me.
You know,
So.
I don't disagree with that there. Let's get to some super chats. We have a lot of them pouring in. If you want your chat read on screen, well, just send it in. Any price will do. Espo, you want to take this first one?
I don't want to see another minute of Plumlee, says Chris Hoskins.
For $2. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah,
It's
it was rough.
Yeah, we'll get into the Mason Plumlee of it all maybe in a second, unless we want to dive into that now because it was
What's there to dive into? It wasn't good on court.
Minus 10 in 13 minutes as opposed to plus 22 in 29 minutes. That pretty much says it all, even for the guy that doesn't like plus minus.
Does he start on Monday?
No,
He better not.
no. There's no way.
I've seen enough.
There is zero chance that he starts. The only reason he started was because Nick Richards just showed up in Detroit yesterday. Like, that's the only reason he started today.
Man, I know. I get it. I really do. But I think they may stick to their guns and wait until they get back home and get a couple of practices in before they completely lean into it.
Mhm.
But to my point that I made pregame, just because he doesn't start doesn't mean he won't play the most minutes and close for this team.
Mhm.
I would not be surprised if that's the exact template they use with even more of a shorter hook against Cleveland than they gave Plumlee and Oso tonight.
If
or
they do
today.
that, it has to be a shorter hook because
sure.
Cleveland's bigs are no joke.
Yep.
in those
Ceremonial
minutes.
tip-off,
Yeah,
you get him the tip-off and get him right out of the game.
Yeah,
it might be that. It might be that, honestly.
The second after Dunn hikes the ball back to Tyus, he just calls a timeout and pull him. Like,
Oh, you think he's winning that tip?
I don't know. Like, look,
That's
look,
bitches right there,
yeah,
man.
look,
Jeez.
Did he win
I'm-
today?
Yeah, he won today.
because they
Yeah,
we
then
got
he's
the
won
hike
2
of
in
the
a row.
ball.
Don't sleep on my goat.
Look, I think I think that this is going to be very clear, a clear directive from Matt Ishbia. Win on Monday. Like anything it takes. You got to play Nick Richards 48 minutes. I don't care. Win on Monday. I'm not losing to Dan Gilbert.
He might pull a Jerry Jones and give a pregame.
I think we heard
would
that
hype
in
me
the
up.
voicemail once, right? Yeah.
A pregame Matt Ishbia speech is something I would need to be in the building for. By the way, for that Cleveland game on Monday, we're doing pregame show, watch long, and postgame show. Make
2
sure you're
p.m.
right here.
game.
Yep, you're going to be free. A lot of you don't have to work. I need to see you here, right here on PHNX Sports. Psycho Blue with the $10 super chat says, Basketball Cthulhu thinks Nick Big Blank, I don't know if that was a good beep or not, being this good this early doesn't dissuade the idea that Suns Twitter should be guest GMs over JJ and Josh.
Okay, to be fair, we've heard for a year and a half that they've had interest in Nick Richards. So, like,
Did we?
Yeah, we heard last year that
I think
they
Nick
had
Richards has
interest.
been up as somebody who we felt like
I
could
think you're
help
right.
the Suns.
Yeah,
I
we
think
did.
you're right.
We did hear it last year. There were rumblings of it. So, like, I'm not okay. Everybody knows
You're
my
right.
stance.
I think you're
so,
right. Yeah. You're right.
Okay. we good?
Everybody knows my James Jones stance. So
Yeah, we don't need
get
to go.
into
It's a positive show.
It is.
Gerald, do you want to read Raymond's super chat?
Yeah, sure. We got a $4.99 super chat from Raymond Gonzalez. Thank you. Great win. Richards is going to help big time. We still need Nurk to be a backup. That's an interesting question for me, and I see where you're coming from because Mason right now has been really rough over the stretch. He also has been starting, so I think to some degree what we're seeing is against starting caliber centers, you put him in a more appropriate bench role. Maybe it looks a little bit better, but the finishing around the basket has still been a concern for me. There's still a lot of concerns for me with Mason at this point. I would like to see Oso on the court more, but I understand, especially a matchup like today, that's maybe not the best matchup for him. So there is still a place for an alternative to Mason and Oso. I don't know if it's Nurk, and I don't know if that ship has sailed at this point, but you do need to address that gap for an alternative somehow.
It all depends on how he's in the locker room, right?
I'm totally fine not even figuring that out. Genuinely, the vibes have been much better around this team without him, whether it's correlation and causation or separate or not. I don't care. I know that that's happened. And I could see if he was fully bought in and not the type of player who he's been, which is very emotional and very in and out as far as being locked in, he could help. But I need him away from this team, Steven. I'm good off Nurk.
Yeah, it feels like they've turned corners without his presence. And because of that, I don't feel like he can come back and have an impact because the trust is just not there.
Yeah.
That was the main reason why I felt like he was not sent away, but while he's been away, they've enjoyed so much connectedness. So I just don't see it.
They had more trust in a guy they've known for 24 hours than a guy that they played with for a year plus.
And you can't blame them because this was the best play the Suns got from a center all season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like, and I said that after the first half, right? Like you could, I'm not even kidding. It was the best first half that they had. And we've seen decent Nurk halves, but never in the way that Nick Richards has impacted the game. And that leads us to our next super chat. Steven, I'm very interested to hear your take on this one. $5 from Book Sunwalker, which is an elite name, says, question for the squad. I know I'm tripping after just one game, but indulge me. Sounds like me. Does Nick Richards have Jarrett Allen potential?
You didn't have to spend $5 if you just wanted to ask us this question.
Great name, great question, Book Sunwalker. What a guy. What do you think, Steven?
Yeah, Jarrett Allen is quite the reach.
Mm-hmm.
Jarrett Allen is an above average on the cusp of elite level starting center because of the dynamics he presents. Nick doesn't quite have that. But I will say, like I said on our show Thursday, when the trade was announced, because of what preceded him and the lack thereof of it, his impact on the Suns could feel, and I said feel similar to that, just because they quite literally had nothing to quantify even close to what he's brought. And we saw that in his first game tonight already. If you didn't watch the Suns all season and this was your first game, you would think they had a top 15, no worse than top 16 center in the NBA. That's not true, but again, the impact just on arrival alone has set a tone for what we can hope to expect to come going forward.
Mike from Mesa with a 199 super chat says, watch out, Cavs. Big Nick is coming. Heyo. Go Suns. Michael with another 199 super chat. Thanks, Michael. Says, Nick was a huge addition. I see a lie. And that's the impact that you mentioned, Steven, is when you go from the dark depths of what was the worst center rotation in the NBA to maybe now an okay starting center who can do this on any given night. It's hard not to start thinking about best case scenario, even if that's still a long way away.
Yeah, there's still, like we've been saying, there's a lot to build on. We're still going to temper our expectations for these next couple of games as both sides get acclimated to each other. But like we've been saying, just adequate center play raises the floor of this team dramatically. And this was a game that the Suns probably would have lost by 15 just a week ago, honestly. So I'm eager to see how they build on it. Like I said last week, I'm eager to see what this team looks like with even just a league average starting center in there. And whether he's actually starting or just playing starters minutes, we saw him be able to come in and have an impact. He played the most minutes that he has played since December 20th today. Like he got off the plane and just logged nearly 30 minutes off the bench and had a monster night. That is impressive to me.
Against a really physical Detroit team that was playing really hard.
Yep.
Espo, it's hard not to see the light.
I'm a Suns fan, so I'm worried that light I'm seeing, I might be just crossing over into the afterlife with this team. But I'm hoping beyond hope, like I have for 30 plus years as a fan of this team, that it is the breaking through and actually seeing the sunlight and not the afterlife light.
Art and B with a 499 super chat says, are the Suns still trying to acquire Jimmy Butler?
It sure seems like it. It seems like the interest is definitely mutual there. Like obviously Jimmy wants to come here above anywhere else. The Suns would love to make that happen if they can. And honestly, I don't want to overreact to one performance, but for the first time in weeks, it feels like that type of aggressive win now, all in type of move would make sense if they can continue to build on the center play that they got today.
And if they get somebody else to agree to send Jimmy Butler here and Beal to waive his no trade clause.
Also, yes, couple of steps, but yes.
They want it, but can they get it is the question.
Can we just hold Pat Riley hostage? Is there something from his time in Phoenix we can blackmail him with? Anything, because I think it's going to take an act of God to get him here and get the Miami Heat to kind of back off where they're at.
B Will with a $2 super chat. Our final super chat, if you want your super chat read, go ahead and send them in. Says, why play Grayson 30 minutes and he lacks defensively? What do you think, Steven?
3-point shooting, and 3-point shooting. You need it. It's complimentary. It's a piece that you planned and you built this roster to dictate with. And he's also been hot. He's been your best shooter. He's been one of the best 3-point shooters the last 2 weeks now, week and a half at least. You have to play him in a game like this. The shots didn't fall, but the opportunities were there. And at the end of the day, you give him opportunities, especially if it's coming sequence within your process the way you desire for it to, you live with the results.
He only had 4 shot attempts tonight, 2 of those from 3. He hit one of them, 4-4 from the line for 7 points. But he's been hot, and he's somebody that he's going to have games like this where he's getting 20 points.
You can't get to the makes without sometimes going through misses like this.
Sure.
Like the same thing with Kevin Durant. If KD just turned it down because he was 1 for 9 or 1 for 10 at halftime, you don't win this game for one, but you also don't get the heroic performance that you did in the second half. You trust these players to take the shots that they train vigorously through, and it's going to show through at some point. You're not always going to make them, but you don't get to the makes again without the misses.
There's only so many shots available in a game, right? Like, so if you have Book and KD doing what they did tonight, and Nick Richards taking up a significant amount of shots too, eventually there's not any more ball to spread, right?
And I will say, off the bench recently, Grayson and Bradley Beal have had really good synergy, and Brad wasn't there today. But just the threat of Grayson spotting up as a 3-point shooter helps. I know defensively he is not perfect by any means, but you look at the 5 guys that came in off the bench. I don't know who you would have played more. Maybe Royce in terms of bench minutes, a few more. But with Royce comes sometimes those head-scratching mistakes that we see him throw, like at least one baffling cross-court pass a game that gets picked off.
Can I bring up? I know we got to get to a break here, but talk in the chat about, if you bring in Jimmy Butler, you're gonna have to sit Ryan Dunn. Blah blah. I actually think what happens is Devin Booker takes the point guard position, and then you have Butler, Dunn, KD, and probably Richards in a lineup.
If they're smart, yes.
Yeah,
that's how they approach that with Tyus.
We saw a lot of Book playing point today at times, and there were moments doing it. Yeah.
So you think if they trade for Jimmy, they're starting Jimmy and Ryan Dunn?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. Just because the premise of the team has been spacing. So if you move Devin Booker to a point guard, I imagine then that means Grayson is going to be starting. Mm-hmm. I can't see Ryan Dunn and Jimmy Butler starting because the spacing and shooting that they need. The way their defenses are going to react if you have Jimmy and Ryan Dunn out there to start a game to a Kevin Durant post touch or Devin Booker and pick and roll, it's going to condense the court, and it's just not going to be them playing the style of offense that they desire to.
I feel like their style of offense has started to change, though. Slightly. We're seeing less three-pointers shot, more of those mid-range. And I feel like that's the area where obviously Jimmy Butler's much better. I know we're talking a lot of hypotheticals, and we may never even get to this point.
I think it's a good question,
but the way I saw them playing Book at point at times today, I went, this might be where we're
It might be the
headed.
Closing lineup.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they start
true.
Tyus to keep him because they like having him off the ball, even though he has not been shooting the ball well over the last 3 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
But closing, you probably have to take him off the court because of the defensive problems.
And to that point, if Tyus keeps not shooting the ball the way that he has, and defenses continue to react to him the way that they have in this pocket as well, literally daring him to take it, and he's not making those, on top of the defensive liability things, it's like you can choose the defense or you can choose the lack of shooting. It cannot be both for this team to be who they desire to be when he's on the court. So to that point is why I don't feel like it's out the realm to see Devin potentially start if Jimmy's brought in.
Well, yeah, because I mean, to your spacing point, you don't have it if Tyus isn't hitting, so you're already you're playing in that world. So
you're probably gonna have to mix and match depending on what's going on with the game. Almost 700 of you in here right now on a Saturday early evening. We appreciate everybody who's already dropped a like. Those of you who are going to drop a like, we're so close, just 17 away from our like goal of 200. I know that we can get there as we just about crossed that 700 threshold, including Israel Vidalis, who says the Suns were wrong about the big three with Bradley Beal always. Now we know that the real big three is KD, Booker, and Richards. Thank you for your $5 super chat. We have more, including Big Bright Shining Star and By the Numbers coming up. Drop in the chat who you think is the big bright shining star for the Suns' 125-121 cathartic win over the Detroit Pistons. We'll be back right after this.
You need a big, bright, shining vehicle?
Yes.
Our friends at Sanderson Ford got you covered. They want you to drive into the new year in a new Ford from Sanderson Ford. New year, new vehicle, new center makes for a new you and a new Phoenix Suns in 2025. So take the whole family in style and save $11,000 off an Expedition. $11,000. That's a lot of cash. Hit the trails or make it your own in a new Bronco Badlands, the coolest name of any car in the market right now. Sanderson has 28 to choose from with discounts up to $10,000 off. Purchase a new Edge for only $35,995. And they also took in hundreds of used vehicles over the holiday season, so you can get great pre-owned vehicles with a warranty for under $25,000. Even Nick Richards can afford those on his salary. So for the best deal in 2025, choose Sanderson Ford for no hassle, no pressure, no nonsense experience, and get more for your trade with easy on-the-spot financing driving in the new year with a new Ford from Sanderson Ford.
Maybe you just got traded from the Phoenix Suns. You're looking to sell your home here in the Valley. Write down this number, 480-776-5231. Of course, you already know this. That's the number for the Carol Royce real estate team that is family-owned and locally operated through 3 generations of family members serving you, the Valley, residents of here. I was going to say Valley of the Sun residents and messed it up. You know who doesn't mess it up? Carol. Over 12,000 homes sold across the valley. She knows the Arizona real estate market, and it's not the right choice. It's the guaranteed choice, which is so much better. You can rest easy knowing that your home will be sold for 100% of the market value, or Carol will pay you the difference if you're considering selling your home in 2025. Josh Kogi. The name to trust is Carol Royce, your home sold guaranteed realty. Have questions, call today, or visit Carol online at carolroyceteam.com. That's carolroyceteam.com.
I think Josh was renting after he got that $8 million contract. I think he saw what was coming.
It was such a low salary, like $8 million. Him and Nick Richards. It's like you just got to save your money.
He was making $3 more than Nick Richards, so Nick Richards has really got to be smart with that cash. So we'll get him in a new house that he needs.
Chat, keep letting me know who you think your big bright shining star is. Let's rip off 2 quick super chats before we get there. Almost at 200 likes as well. Thank you, all of you. Joe with the $4.99 super chat. Joe's been awesome with the super chats. Great takes and nuanced conversation from Joe. We love super chats like that. Marginal players matter more in today's NBA. The league has more stars than ever. Depth and versatility decides wins. Just felt more stability today.
And that's why I brought in Steven, Eric, and Gerald, because sometimes you got enough star power, but you need the guys that can do
I
the
know
dirty
you
work.
did not just.
That's crazy. Honestly, we appreciate the super chat. There was no like filler words in there. But if you left it just at the first sentence, you already had me sold. Absolutely, yes. And I think case in point today is Nick Richards.
100%. Yeah, I mean, you need quality guys around the stars, and we saw that last year. They did not have enough of them. Nick Richards becomes another guy that I think they'll be able to count on to do the things that he's good at.
Yep.
So.
Matthew with a $2 super chat says, the win didn't feel like a bad win. No bad runs. Definitely a different feeling than the Washington game, Gerald.
Yeah, and it felt like maybe there was one in the first quarter with some of the turnovers early on, but outside of that, it just felt like a good competitive basketball game between two good teams. Like, I know Detroit's record is what it is, but they've been playing great basketball over the last handful of weeks, and the Suns came in there and looked competent against a quality opponent for the first time in like over a month, so that was nice to see.
Michael with a $19.99 super chat. Big spender, big roller. Michael, thank you. Says the Pistons' intent in the second half was to bully the Suns with physical play on both sides of the ball. The Suns stood up for themselves for the first time all season. What if 5 to 10 minutes off the bench for Nurkic works? It's a big if.
It is a big if, and it's not just because like Nurk has been so bad this season. Mostly for me at this point, it's something that I think you guys alluded to already. Like, has that ship sailed? Like, is that relationship fixable? Because when Nurk got moved to the bench, he said like there was no conversation about it. Nobody told me about it. Like, he was clearly upset that no conversation was had. And whatever you think about Yusuf Nurkic, he was the starting center on your team. That's a conversation that has to be had. And it wasn't. And so that bridge might be burned for all we know. I don't know.
It might be. Junior with 125 peso super chat. Thanks, Junior or JR, whatever it might be. Says, finally out-rebounded a team, but a post-Achilles KD can't sustain those minutes. Trade Beal for depth. Suns are handicapped by $50 million every game. But how? How do you trade Bradley Beal? Well, guess what? On Tuesday, we are going to be breaking down so many more trades the Phoenix Suns could be making. I'm sure we have a lot cooking over with Gerald and Steven at GoPHNX.com. So we're not going to dive too far into trading Beal now, but we will on our 3 p.m. show on Tuesday.
Can I address something from the chat? Durantula said that this is a sausage party, and it's actually a Nick party today. So.
Oh, wow.
We hit 200 likes.
Did we?
Yeah, 206.
Let's go.
Dance party.
And I did want to... Oh, here we go.
200 likes.
Oh, my God.
Dance.
I've got no response. I did want to address Sparrow because they've left this comment a couple of times. They were asking about Daniel Gafford, who has been reportedly available. I did see that report. Based on what I read, the Mavs were dangling him in trade talks to get a high-quality perimeter defender. So if you look at Gafford's like $13 million contract, the only ones that would work for that are Grayson Allen or Yusuf Nurkic, neither of which fit that description. So if you could work out a 3-team deal somehow where a third team sends Dallas the defender that they want, you get Gafford and somehow Nurk or Grayson go somewhere else, maybe, but it feels kind of unlikely.
it might be unlikely, but wasn't unlikely, was both Kevin Durant and Devin Booker going off against the Detroit Pistons. And it's time for our big, bright, shining star, presented by Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you. At Gila River Resorts and Casinos, visit playatgila.com for details.
I am a big, bright, shining star.
It's got to be Kevin Durant, despite Devin Booker getting 30-plus points for his 5th straight game that ties the longest streak in the NBA. But Kevin Durant, in the second half, hit all-time status, ending the game with 36 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, 13 of 27 from the field in 38 minutes. Steven, one of the greatest of all time, put together one of the greatest halves I've seen of all time against the Pistons.
Man, he said it best. You know his name, Kevin freaking Durant. And I think that was exactly what we saw in the entire second half. 21 of his 30 points in the second half came in the third quarter alone. And I know the offensive numbers are loud, but his defense and his activity in tandem with Nick Richards in the front court for this group is what really helped to tilt things back in their favor and allow for them to play this game down the stretch on their terms. And before we get to the fourth quarter, the third quarter activity on that end of the floor defensively, his activity in rim protection as the low man, stepping over early, big-time block shots at times, deflections, just understanding positioning at that size is already like 3/4 of the job. And when you can defend without fouling the ways that he can with moving targets coming at him, just makes for an active front court group that this team has really missed. And before we get to fourth quarter talk, what were you guys' thoughts on KD?
I mean, 6 points on 1 of 9 shooting in the first half. There are not many players that can so effortlessly, completely shake off a bad half like that and come out in the third quarter, drop 21, finish with 30 in the second half. Like, obviously making shots helps. He was on a heater in that third, but he was also attacking that 1-and-1 that he had over like 2 or 3 defenders at the rim, and he was fired up. That was fantastic to see, because as much as KD has put up great numbers and is obviously a great player, that was like a Kevin Durant vintage takeover, one of the best that we've seen him do in a Suns uniform. So that was a lot of fun to watch, and it was a lot of fun to watch because it came in tandem with a great Devin Booker game as well. This was only the 5th time all season that they've both gone for 30 in the same game, and it didn't feel like either one was taking away from each other. We didn't have Kevin Durant or Devin Booker stands going head-to-head on Twitter today. Like, that was really nice to see them both work in co-op like that.
What was impressive to me, too, only 2 turnovers, had the 5 assists, but he impacted the game in different ways, to Steven's point, in that first half. So he stayed engaged in the game, didn't get, I mean, he knows who he is. He knows 1 of 9, whatever. It's a bad half, but I'm going to come out. I'm still going to be the guy I am. And he showed it in that third quarter. It was unbelievable. If they don't have that, that's the typical Suns third quarter, right? Where it's like the Pistons go up by 10, 11, and everybody's like, oh, the third quarter again. But KD went into overdrive and took over that, carried it into the fourth, and it was a thing of beauty. That was a work of art from Kevin Durant in that second half.
And I'm not sure the numbers on this. Maybe, Steven, you'd be able to pull this up for me, not to give you some homework. But it does feel like he's continued to emphasize paint presence as well. A couple big dunks tonight. Still definitely operated a lot in the mid-range, especially when he took over. But I like seeing him being able to mix that up and get a wide variety of shots. Anything else on Kevin Durant before we talk about? A lot of people in the chat are mentioning Devin Booker could have been the star. Devin Booker should have been the X factor. It's hard not to give Book an award after his performance, so we're going to talk about him next, but let's put a bow on the KD conversation with any final thoughts.
12 of 18 in the second half. That's Kevin Durant right there. And that for me is exactly why I wanted to see this team with adequate starting center play, because there's been so much talk recently about blowing it up. We addressed this on Southwest Bias, but I still believe a team that is built correctly around Devin Booker and Kevin Durant can be a force. And today was the first time in weeks that we saw it again, and it was good to see that.
Today felt a lot like that first few months with Kevin and Devin and leading to the playoffs where they both were playing at a high level. The difference was, I think, that they have a supporting cast now that can fill in some of the gaps that they didn't have then. The question is, okay, if you can't deal Bradley Beal, is it all sustainable? Can you get those kind of performances while getting Bradley Beal enough of what he wants, while having Nick Richards perform offensively and Grayson figuring out? There's all sorts of questions that come up with it, but this iteration where you get Devin and Kevin going the way they do, this should be Suns basketball.
Yeah, and I mean, the question you asked, 18 points in the paint. Second time over the last couple of weeks that he's at 18. He's had about 12 games where he's had double-digit points in the paint. I think Bud asked him to play more in the paint this season in terms of upping the tick on his drives, and he's answered that in space. He has over 15 games or 12 games, I think, this season where he's had double-digit points in the paint. He's getting it via cuts, but he's driving the basketball, and him putting the ball on the deck with the space that they create around him, it makes him just a complete riddle to solve because he got the jumper going, and there's just nothing you can do after a certain point once he gets into his shot-making bag. So Kevin Durant is the team's closer for a reason, and we saw them lean into that, and we saw him get it going when they needed it most tonight.
Big shout out to KD. Shout out to Book, who opened it up, had an incredible first half. We're going to talk about him, and we're going to finish up with our final thoughts on this game by the numbers right after our final break.
Let's talk about our friends over at Mint Mobile.
Okay.
You want to?
No, I think you should.
Like we said, Nick Richards is cheap and efficient.
Okay.
And so is Mint Mobile, right? You want wireless service for just $15 a month?
Yes.
Oh, they've got that big Nick energy for you. They've got the service, unlimited service for 3 months for $15 a month with their unlimited plan. It is great. 5G wireless. It's not some of these, rinky dink. You're going to get 2G service and it's only going to work if you're outside in the right place where you can hit a satellite dish with what you're doing. No. None of that. It's all the kind of high speed internet and data that you want with unlimited talks and text. It is unbelievable. And you can bring your phone number over. So switch to Mint Mobile as a new customer and get their unlimited plan until February 2nd. Your new wireless plan is just $15 a month and you can get shipped to your door for free. Go to mintmobile.com/suns. That's mintmobile.com/suns. $45 up front, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers only on a first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fee, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
If you're watching along with our watch along, you saw me in my Shady Rays, and that is because they are the perfect sunglasses from an independent sunglasses company who offers a world-class product. Rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
300,000.
It's a lot of people. And it's because of a lot of reasons, right? They've got crystal clear optics, polarized frames, durable shades, but they also have different styles, maybe style in your team's favorite colors. Maybe you finally feel proud to rock those Suns purple and orange colors once again. Plus, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear, every pair backed by a lost or broken replacement. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com. Use code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
A full KD% off.
A full KD% off. Tony, GDP, Master, Durantula, Red Hawk, Meatloaf, Strikeout, JDQ, Ivan, Death Pacino. That's a great name. Tony, thanks to everybody of almost 700 of you who've helped us crush our light goal of 200. Can y'all make me happier? 234 right now. Can we get to 300 in the next 12 minutes? Because I think we can.
Death Pacino, Al's son.
Yeah, Death Pacino with a SpongeBob picture is pretty great. Speaking of death, it was death by Devin Booker in the first half for the Detroit Pistons. He didn't get any awards tonight, but he probably should have. 5th straight game with 30-plus points. He had 35 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, 11 of 22 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3, but 12 of 13 from the line. Espo, it was Armani mode yet again.
Yeah, and he's doing it efficiently. He's hitting. My barometer for Devin Booker is if he's getting that free throw line extended and doing that 1-foot fadeaway and hitting that on consistency, which we saw in a lot in that first half. That's when I know Devin Booker's feeling it. Like you mentioned, 5th straight 30-point game. That tied for the most in the league this season with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This is the Devin Booker that we've come to know, that we've come to love, and he's back for the time that they need it, man. If there was ever a time for Devin Booker to show back up, it's right now, and it's helped them win over the last handful of weeks.
And in this game in particular, especially in the first half, because Kevin Durant was 1 for 9 in that first half, had a couple of turnovers. They really needed his offensive production. And I think he had 23 in the first half. So he was kind of helping their offense stay afloat in that respect. And I'm excited to go back and watch, the baskets that he did make in this game and the shots that he took, because it felt like he got to his mid-range quite a lot. He was only 1 for 5 from 3, which has been different from the last handful of games where he's been shooting the lights out from 3. But he was able to get to his spots in the mid-range. And I'm curious how much of that is just a product of the way that Detroit was playing him, a product of trying to get there, and a product of, to some degree, the spacing that Nick Richards provides in terms of the screen setting and actually having some gravity on the roll. Does that open things up for Book and KD to get to their spots a little bit more in the mid-range than maybe they have all season? That's something to keep an eye on. And the other thing that I love, got to the free throw line 13 times, made 12 of them. KD got to the line 12 times. Like, between Nick Richards, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant, that's the vast majority of the 40 free throw attempts that you got today. So love to see that from the 3 best players that you had on the court today, all getting to the line at least 9 times.
And we talk about spacing for a team, and usually it means 3-point shooters, but there also is a gravitational pull inwards towards the paint, and having Nick Richards and now Kevin Durant as well, Steven, making a bigger emphasis. It's allowed Devin Booker more of a free canvas to paint his game on, and a lot less attention than what we saw when everybody was injured and teams were throwing 3 bodies at him at a time.
Yeah, that's what I spoke about post-game last game, and I spoke to them being better with their process offensively around him. You can give KD the ball in the post, but what are you doing around him to make him feel free and be able to attack one-on-one? No different with Devin Booker in isolation and pick and roll, if it's coming off a movement or if he's initiating. And to that point, I think the biggest telltale sign for Devin Booker and the Suns being better with the spacing around him, 10 straight games in double figures scoring points in the paint. You know how many times he did that prior to this 10-game stretch over the season?
How many?
His career?
No, just this season.
How many?
0. So that speaks to him playing in better space, not just playing in better space, but feeling that space and being able to have optionality. I can't just go right because I got somebody loading the nail at the left. And I can't just do it vice versa because of the same thing. Better spacing, giving him more optionality, and now he has a better blend to his shot profile. He looks a whole lot more like himself because of it as well. And he's been a top 5 player in the NBA over the last handful of games because of it.
We're rounding out things here on the PHNX Suns post-game show. Thanks to the almost 700 of you who've been sticking strong, everybody on YouTube after the fact, and of course our audio listeners. We're at 256. Let's try to get to 300. I want to put a poll in the chat that we're going to end the show with. I want everybody to give their grades for Nick Richards' debut, A, B, C, D, or lower. We'll get to that in a second, but first we are going to get to By the Numbers, presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, Arizona's #1 credit union, named by Forbes.
What's in the box?
What's in the box is a 125-121 win over the Pistons. The Suns shot 50% from the floor, held their opponent to 46.8%. KD's been saying if they can hold their opponents in that 45% range, they're usually in good shape, so just a couple of percentage points shy there. Neither team shot the ball well from 3 or took a ton of threes. The Pistons took 33, only made 27%. Suns only took 25 and only made 28% of those. I would like to see the 3-point attempts go up a little bit there. Man, against the physical Detroit Pistons back line, they out-rebounded them 50-43, and that is in part due to the Nick Richards effect. Also, Nick Richards, 60 points to 60 points in the paint. You'd love to see that because normally they are about 15 to 20 points down in that category. The one thing that they do need to clean up, that transition defense, especially early in the game. The Pistons had 28 fast break points to the Suns 14.
Yeah, I think the big thing with that, looking at the 3-pointers for one, teams are playing them to what they know is their strength and trying to eliminate the 3-point opportunities as much as they possibly can. So just getting to a certain make number might even be better for the Suns instead of trying to generate a certain volume is getting a little bit tougher. I will say, though, if they play better defense, that naturally lends themselves to playing in transition more 3-point opportunities there. The other big thing, the paint points. They're not a team that has a physical inside presence that they're throwing the ball to. So it has to come via drives. And that's a big indicator in what I talked about with KD and Devin Booker. 18 for KD, 16 for Devin Booker tonight, or this evening rather. The paint points are just so important for this team. It helps to set the table for ultimately what's to come from that in attention, which is the three-point opportunities.
Any thoughts on the numbers, Espo? Anything that stood out to you from that?
I mean, yeah, the points in the paint, you want to give Nick a lot of credit, but like you're talking about, it does go speak to Kevin and Devin's aggressiveness as well. Rebounds, obviously a huge thing for Nick Richards' impact on this team. But the thing that stands out to me is the lower number of three-pointers they're shooting. Mm-hmm. I legit wonder if it's a change in philosophy, just understanding who you have and how they play best. And if it is, credit to Bud for kind of changing his approach, because we all know that he's very much a believer in shoot early and shoot often from deep. And we saw that early in the year where they're getting 40, 45, 53 in one game up. So
we are so close to the end of the show. We have another super chat coming in before we get to bets and round things out. Squirrely David says, of the rumored available centers, who is your top choice for the Suns to trade for and shore up our center rotation? And Nick Richards got an A tonight. Goga?
Goga's still my guy. I don't know if he's actually available or not.
Yeah.
But if he were, that would be my answer. Yeah.
Oh, who I think is available in the market, who I think is available, for me is Robert Williams still.
Okay.
I know the injuries, yes, but the optionality you have if your center group goes from what it was to start the season to Nick Richards, who can then in turn also serve as an insurance piece for Robert Williams. Robert Williams himself and also Iguodala. I'm thinking about the versatility they can lean into defensively for a group that has not had that. That shifts a lot for your context.
Yep.
Frank Kaminsky. Give me that stretch. No, look, I think the likely thing is a Duop Reith type with the trade exemption.
Hoping you can get him with Robert Williams.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, if you can figure that out, great. Yeah. But I think the likely thing is you use that trade exemption, and maybe Portland's just looking to give the guy a chance and move off him because he's not playing. I don't think that fixes everything, but I think it's at least another option to look at. So,
and maybe it's not a center like Duop with the trade exception. Maybe it's another minimum center around the league that we don't even have our eyes on right now. We're going to cover more trades on Tuesday. Make sure everybody has notifications on and subscribe to PHNX Sports for our Tuesday 3 p.m. show. And of course, for tomorrow's pre-watch along and post-game show, all right here with PHNX Suns. Let's round things out with our bets, because I know two of us won. I don't know. Steven, did your bet hit? No, Steven's bet didn't hit. Mine did. Espo's did. Espo, you won a whopping
$1.25, baby. There was a bill in that one this time.
Can you let the people know what your bet was?
My bet was a lot of stuff that was going to happen anyways to all happen. It was Devin at 15-plus points. It was KD at 15-plus points. It was Devin Booker at plus 3+ assists, which barely hit. Yeah. And then it was our friend Nick Richards at 3+ rebounds, which happened in like the first 2.5 seconds he was in the game.
It was a minus 800. I also hit my bet, not to brag. I got Devin Booker 30+ points, Tyus Jones 5.5 assists, and Suns money line at a plus 425. I'm creeping back up towards the positive. I'm smack dab in the middle of these two at a negative 41. Espo at a negative 213.47. Steven still in the positive. By the way, I gave that bet out on our two wins in a row, $2 total from those 2 wins. By the way, I
better
put out
than losing 10, right?
And that's not something I'm living with today.
Technically, if you look at it, it's like $22 because I didn't lose those $10 that I was doing.
That's a massive spin zone. All right, let's check in on this poll. Give our final thoughts here. Noah changed up the options.
Okay, good, because
ABC is pretty stupid.
The only thing is the Big Nick energy may have gotten some D votes. All right, that's it.
Well, Noah changed it to A+, A-, and F. And I'll let you know, F coming in at a strong 0%.
Good.
A- at 5%. A at 22%. A+ at 72%. Final grades for Nick Richards' debut in the purple and orange across the panel.
Yeah, it's an A for me because there's still room for improvement. But this was about as good as you possibly could have expected from him in his first game with the team. Love to see it.
BNE. Big Nick energy. That's look. There's nothing other than an A range that you're going to go with. This was exactly what everybody had dreamed that you could get from the center position. You get it in night one. Do I think it's going to happen every night? No, but it was great tonight, so I'm going to enjoy it.
It's a A+ for me. I think you can have an A+ and still have room for improvement. You get a 95, or a 96, you got an A+, but you didn't get quite 100%. So I think he's operating in that space. And I think it's for the tangible things and the things we saw, but also for the impact to Espo's point. Nick Richards and his motor, I think is something that is really going to help for the team coming from his role. The Suns did not have a center that was a blue-collar boy, and I'm dubbing him already in that group after his first game.
I love it.
It's official. We knight the Nick Richards, a blue collar boy. A+ from me, A+ from the chat, A+ to the chat. Thank you to everybody on TV, in chat, YouTube, audio for joining us along this Phoenix Suns journey. Maybe everything is starting to turn around. We didn't hit to 300 likes, but that's okay. I know we're going to get there after the fact. Thanks to all of you who have stayed along for the entire time, not when we are live, but for those of you still here, hit that like on the way out. Make sure you subscribe. These little things do go such a long way in making sure that we can continue to do what we love to do, which is celebrate the highs and drown in the lows, all together with you. And right now, we're going off those highs. No show tomorrow, so go back and watch this one again. If you're looking for some more content, go to gophnx.com. Steven's notebook is up there. A lot of stuff to dive into. Of course, Gerald has a board game breakdown on Nick Richards. If you haven't already seen that and you want to get more hyped for what he could bring, a lot of what Gerald said played over into the game today. You could be a more informed fan with Gerald, Steven, and everybody else here on PHNX. And of course, we do Cardinals shows, we do ASU shows, we do Wildcat shows, we do Diamondback shows, we do Mercury shows, we do Rising shows, we do so much for Arizona sports all right here in one place on our YouTube channel. Help us get to 40K. You can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. We thank Noah, silly little computer boy behind the Mac, for making all the magic happen. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. That's Steven with a PH because that does matter. Gerald at Gerald Bourget. And of course, you can follow Espo at Espo.
Can I take it away?
You always
All
get
right.
to take it away.
Look, it's not how big your Nick is. It's how you use them. And tonight, that felt really good. Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.